Hi guys, this is Hi-Fi Daydreaming, and let's daydream together on my journey to listen as much of hi-fi gears and goodies as I can and share my thoughts with you guys. It's incredible to me how company, which is young, and I'm saying young in hi-fi terms, is able to produce such ripples and waves on audiophile scene. And I personally have a soft spot for this company as it was one of my first speakers I had of theirs. You can even check one of my first reviews, I think my second ever, on this channel was for their Q Acoustics 3020i speakers, which are really great budget speakers, especially on that price level. But now, Q Acoustics have new 5000 lineup with 10, 20, 40 and 50 speakers. This is sort of middle child of lineup, which is always my favorite in hi-fi terms. But this is a sonic step up from 3000 series and are supposed to be a notch lower from their concept series of speakers. And I think all this should be taken in consideration. How do these speakers perform comparing to those and other in this price level? First, let's get through the mandatory stuff out of the way. I don't like the new design. I honestly prefer more minimalistic approach to 3000 series and kind of their proportions as well. It is not that they are ugly, it is only they feel too bland to me and lacks a bit of characteristics. One thing which have returned from 3000 series is P2P bracing, which means making the new enclosures exceptionally rigid, improving the focus of the stereo image and giving the soundstage more accuracy than ever before. We will touch on that later because I don't think so. This is something also we will talk about later because sometimes the marketing spiel is kind of not correct and just isn't promoting the device correctly. To me, always, interesting aspects of Q Acoustics bookshelves are that they are exceptionally deep, so you always have to worry about matching stands for them. They are much deeper than far bigger speakers in this price range. This, in my opinion, while uncomfortable at first, does bring a great results with bass. I spoke at length how 3030i have a great, astonishing bass, and it's sort of similar here. So a lot of formula from 3000 are back, but do I like these speakers as much as I loved my brown walnut 3020 and 3030i? Well, answer is yes and no at some points, and I know that is such a cheap answer, I know, but this is a higher class than 3000 series, and as such, it should be taken with a bigger considerations. Plus, the sonic character have been changed. I strongly believe that Q Acoustics have looked at Bowers and Wilkins' winning formula and said to themselves, well, I want that. The sound is less balanced and warm to more expressive, upped and detailed sound of new speakers. That is something that right away blows at you. How much more they separate and how much are able to resolve details in mid-range and treble. They are amazing in that regard. They are lively and punchy, and those hi-hats and cymbals are in your room, firmly dictating that tempo, making that very live feeling to your songs. That is all done that speakers are able to separate instruments with a great precision and with a great clarity. There's also a great timing to instruments as well. Separation is helping you with the layering of multi-instrumentation, as placement of instruments and vocals have their firm place in soundstage. In width and height, you need to feel and hear every instrument clearly, and it does a great job into placing them on soundstage and giving them details and texture. And truly, there are plenty of details here, as that helps instruments to be more rounded with shape and presence, as it just be giving more forward presentation and of the scale in dynamic range. They are able to extract information more. Therefore, rhythm section is entrancing and charming. I really love that with this type of similar speakers. It just makes listening music fun experience, even though limited in its longevity, but really nice. Soundstage is also good, but maybe it is not showing the widest dispersion in this price range. Also, I cannot end this segment without giving props to bass reproduction. It is not the widest experience, but it is full rich bass, which complements the sound of Q Acoustics really great. It gives it a great foundation and it is a really detailed experience, therefore, making it commanding, and yet you know that pulse that feels like it's full of rush and presence. Yeah, these speakers are pushing out that bass like that. And it is good, while it will not overthrow your tower speakers or subwoofers, but it is a great addition to bookshelf speakers. Placement of these speakers were without hassle. If you follow just some typical hi-fi rules of placing these speakers in room, I think there should not be any problem placing them anywhere. These speakers will not muddy the sound if there is not too many room to breathe. Of course, treatment of the room is always great from crispiness and cleanliness of the sound and dispersion, but these speakers are good with playing with your room whatever it has and however it is treated. One album which blew me away while listening with these speakers is something maybe not too much audio friendly, and especially not something you will ever hear in comparison to speakers like this, and that is Negura Bunjet Om. Negura Bunjet is a black metal band, and to add more flavor to it, it is a progressive black metal band infused with a Romanian folk. Now, metal in general is not that much good with audiophile gear, as production can at a lot of time feel stale and rush. But as I said earlier, there's a lot of folk instrumentation here and played by various ways with a lot of electronic details and percussion added. Those instruments are played live, so they have really weight to them, but are also very real with deep textures to them. These speakers help me distinguish them really well as what is metal, wood, strings, but also in this complex multi-layered instrumentation. It created a lane and space for every instrument, and not just doing so, but also making them more present and upfront to me. These speakers are so great with percussions, which are driving me, and they're so much good to just listen them entranced. And the power of these speakers comes to mind right away. It is incredibly live and upbeat speakers that enhances your treble. Initially amazing with hooks, rhythms and tensions, but it also shows a bit of its ugly face with how it resolves distortion. It sometimes can become fatiguing and bright too much. If that might be a too much abrasive for you, why not go and listen to some classics, like new Abbey Road half-speed masters of Dire Straits, especially Love Over Gold, my favorite record of theirs, and this new remaster is miles better than one in 1997. It is their magnum opus. The Telegraph Road is a great way to test all these speakers, as they have slow parts, fast parts, complex parts, acoustic, silence, etc. The reason I went for this is because it's mixed generally really bright, and it exposes the bright speakers, and it was a fine experience here. A bit upped, but nothing too dramatic. It controlled those unshaved highs really well. You'd think the reason for that is the drums and guitars are quite clinical and very clean, so therefore they pierce through dynamic range. And though these speakers, you feel their presence and their body, etc., they are a bit bright, so with some grain and attack. But yet it did provide with a clean experience with the well separation and defined mids. Only it kinda lacked a bit more texture and sort of, how I can say this, audiophile magic for it to truly expand like some other speakers in this price range. You must ask yourself why I have not touched at all at how these speakers reproduce vocals, as I have to list now a problems I have with these speakers. As like every speaker, they are not perfect. They might be for some very specified listener who cherished upped treble over everything. And there are a few issues I have with these speakers. Firstly off, it is imaging. No matter to what amp I pair this with, and I pair this with Denon, Music Fidelity, Arkham, Cambridge Audio, I was never fully satisfied with how imaging is. Focus of the speakers are always a bit loose. There is never a firm presence of vocalists in the center of my room, and vocals are generally clean, but somewhat there was never a full presence that I wanted. I cannot fault the separation, as I could easily pick up the singers with ease, but it felt a little lacking in shape and size of vocals to fully immerse me. They were not bad, it is just that some different speakers in this price range give me more pleasure with timbre, decay, and presence of vocalists. And color of tonality, I kind of prefer it in some other speakers to this one. Just it lacked that a bit more finesse and elegance. Secondly is synergy. This speaker can go bright really fast really soon. As every speaker that is treble rich, brightness can be an issue, especially if they are not breaking correctly enough. It can be a problem for longer listening sessions, especially with a wrong gear. For example, if you have at your home Riga or Cambridge Audio, result is going to be punchy and live, but hell of a bright. You need something to tame them, some Denons, some Arkhams, etc., some warmer amps. Otherwise, this goes too wild. It takes me some time to fully acclimate to these speakers that I can listen to them on a longer period of times, and I almost did not like them until I find out good match for them and realized how good they are, but need a really care in partnering equipment. None of these are deal breakers, but could be a deciding factor if you weigh between this or some other different speakers. And how is your affinity towards one sonic characteristic and others? What you weigh is most important to you. And as such, as I think I should compare this with some interesting alternatives to these speakers, just to paint even fuller picture of these speakers. Bowers and Wilkins 607S3 are constantly falling to my attention while listening to these speakers. They're very detailed-oriented speakers with great extensions of details and dynamics and resolving power. Bowers are even more bright as they resolve more details and have more treble and more mids and more dynamics than Q Acoustics. Does that make them better speakers? No, as Q Acoustics are far more easier to listen and have far more better bass. There is something about, and let me put this in quotes, balanced sound of Q Acoustics compared to Bowers, as it makes it for more pleasured and longer experience of listening to music. Soundstage depth and width is similar. Treble is more rich in Bowers, including a tad bit more separation, etc. But if I could choose, maybe I would go with Q Acoustics, even though it is all preference and depending for what I listen, but I will also not mind Bowers and Wilkins in this tirade, as it could get even more fun than Q Acoustics. It all depends on what you want and what you expect from your speakers. Monitor Audio Silver 50 is the alternative to Q Acoustics in the sense that it does also provide this upped experience, but in a more balanced manner. But in a lot of sense, it does everything that Q Acoustics do, maybe a notch less on bass and treble details. But if you love what you heard in this review so far and want more balanced approach, this might be for you. And one thing more, they used to cost similarly, but now I can find Monitor Audio Silver 50 on a discounts in a lot of places, so it could be a better value out of this too. But if I could choose, I would go with Q Acoustics. Maybe a great point is that also that, Monitor Audio is far easier to pair than Q Acoustics, so think about that. Now let's go to Dali Oberon 3, which are sort of benchmark in this price point. I personally like a little bit more Oberons, but for a reason it might not appeal to you or to everyone else. Q Acoustics are more detailed and some might say even more fun speakers, but to me, Oberons are just more mature audiophile devices. They have bigger reach and far better imaging than Q Acoustics, even though that richness in treble, details and textures are better in Q Acoustics. I just liked how Oberons feel more musical and how vocals are more firmly placed in the center of soundstage with more clarity and a great color tonality. Bass is great in both drivers. I don't think anybody would mind neither Q Acoustics nor Dali's in that sense. But then again, some people might prefer more Q Acoustics and I completely understand that. It is just that I find more pleasure, and especially in long listening sessions, in Oberon's 3. So here we are at the end of the review. This review might send mixed signals. Do I dislike them? Well, answer is that I do. I think they are great speakers, but I also think that these speakers could be far more if they could have more audiophile finesse rather than raw power of resolving. I believe you can like something even if it has flaws and problems, because we are humans and we are attracted to things that are exceptional in one area or other, and we are willing, in order to experience that greatness in that price range, to look past some flaws and problems. I don't like reviews that are flat, going in bad or good territory, as I believe there are many colors in between and many thoughts and tensions, and it all paints this beautiful audiophile picture. If you like your speakers to be great resolvers with a lot of details and textures, with really decent bass, you certainly cannot go wrong with this one. Just be wary of lack of imaging, length of soundstage and bad pairings, as it can create really bad synergy which is going to sound really bright. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this content, please like, subscribe, or if you can, donate via Patreon. Keep daydreaming and see you soon. Bye!